morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this regular called meeting of the Temple City Council for Thursday, the 15th of November. Please rise. Pastor Jason Hamilton with the First United Methodist Church will lead us in an invocation, and then Chief Lonzo Wallace, our fire chief, will lead us in our pledge. Pastor.
Mayor, Council, it's an honor to be with you. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for the opportunity to be in this place tonight. We thank you for this time of year and for the break from the hot weather. We ask that your Spirit would reside in this place and that you would provide us with wisdom and guidance and that you might use this branch of government to do your work in this world. We ask all these things in the name of the risen Christ. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is an opportunity for public comment. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may sign up to do so prior to the meeting. Public comments will be received during this portion of the meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. No discussion or final action will be taken as a result of these comments during this meeting, and we have no one signed up to speak this evening. We'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed under this section, consent, are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted by one motion. If discussion is desired on any item, it may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member, and it will be considered separately. Council, this is item 3A through P, and we'll remove item N for separate consideration. Any other items that you wish to be removed for discussion, presentation, or voting purposes? If not, I'll entertain a motion on item 3A through P, less item 3N.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda, less item 3N. Further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Collins?
Aye. Even though we just approved it, on item 3P is the fourth quarter financials, and ask if we could have a presentation on that item, please. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to present the fourth quarter financial statements for the year ended September 30th, 2012. I do have a brief discussion. I'm just going to go over the general fund and water wastewater fund. We ended the year, total revenues were at $58.1 million with a budget of $56.1 million for 103% of budget, or $1.9 million in excess of budget. Just a chart that shows what made up the $1.9 million. Do show the red bars are for FY 2012, the blue bars FY 2011. You should note on the far left side that sales tax is the major contributor to our overage each year, or in the past 2 years. It shows to be the $1.2 million in FY 2012 and close to $1.3 million in FY 2011. To the far right, we did have few divisions, revenue accounts that did not make budget, and I do show it on this chart. Next slide, please. Sales tax, it is the major revenue source of the general fund, makes up about 28%. This chart shows Temple at about 5.22% growth, the red bar. To the far left is Harker Heights, again showing other cities in our region, about 10.2%. Far right's City of Waco, and the lime green bar is statewide, all cities in Texas. Next chart show general fund expenditures. We ended the year at 93% of budget, or $3.9 million less than budget. Just a chart that shows historically over the past 10 years how our revenues compare actual to budget. You see the trend that other than 2009, we do consistently, budget is, actual is greater than budget. Expenditures, again, the consistent trend of coming in below budget, and showing that 2012 at the 93.49%. Next slide shows the water wastewater fund revenues. We ended the year total operating revenues at 28.6 million, or 107% of budget. Water wastewater fund expenses, we ended the year at 22.5 million, or 98% of budget. And that would conclude the major funds for the city. Be happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Bernard. I always like to highlight our quarterly financials, but certainly this one is fourth quarter and it's year end. Again, very good numbers, and I want to commend staff. This doesn't happen without strong management at all levels, good leadership, department heads to bring budget in this way. We try and budget for excess of revenues and under budget on our expenses, and that takes good management and vigilance all year long for that to happen. And thanks to you, David, to Tracy, to all staff at all levels for making this happen. It keeps our city financial picture very, very strong, very stable, makes it easy to go to the money markets when we need to, and be received quite favorably as we were when we sold bonds just a couple weeks ago. And so congratulations and thanks for a great job to all. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is first reading and a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance designating. Oh, thank you. Sorry. Item 3N is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for funding through the Texas Department of Transportation Enhancement Program in the amount of $1,870,000, with $1,500,000 reimbursed through the city through the funding, federal funding, to develop landscape, urban trails, and improvements along State Highway 53. That's Adams Avenue and Central Avenue. And
Mayor, I'll be happy to address.
Do the presentation on
I'll
this?
be happy to address that item. And I think the reason it was pulled from council packet was you received a revised version of the item this afternoon. The only revision to the item from what you received in your packet has to do with the total dollar amount of the project as well as the match requirement or match that would be given. I think your packet had identified a 20% match on the part of the city. What we're recommending after some further discussions at staff level but also with TxDOT is increasing the match to 25%. Also modifies the total amount from 1.8 to $2.2 million. As I said in the work session, we also have the opportunity to revisit this in the coming months. It's going to be several months before TxDOT goes through the process and makes awards. And I do think we do need to have some further council discussion. But so tonight, what I'd recommend to you is the revised version that you have in front of you, $2.2 million, 1.65 reimbursed to the city match being $550,000 or 25%. Be happy to answer any questions, and we can talk in more detail about the project. But that's the revisions from the item packet.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. Council, questions on the item, comments relative to the grant? I think we discussed in workshop that the timing on this would be sometime midsummer when TxDOT thinks that this would be announced.
That was the word we got yesterday, I think.
Council, entertain a motion on item N, which is to consider adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for funding through TxDOT, the Transportation Enhancement Program, in the amount of $2,200,000 with a $1,650,000 reimbursement to the city through federal funding to develop the landscape, urban trails, and improvements along State Highway 53, Adams Avenue, and Central.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second for approval of the resolution. Further discussion? Being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Thanks for getting me back on track there. And council, just in our workshop, we had a quarterly travel and training and meals report handed to us, which is done quarterly in conjunction with the quarterly financial statements. So I think each of you have a copy of that. Requires no action, it's informational only. Now to item 4, first reading and a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance designating a tract of land consisting of approximately 11.444 acres located at the southern end of Panda Drive, Temple, Texas, as City of Temple Tax Abatement Reinvestment Zone Number 25 for commercial industrial tax abatement. And Ms. Kayla?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a short presentation. This is, like you said, the first reading and public hearing for an ordinance that would create Tax Abatement Reinvestment Zone Number 25, which is located at the southern end of Panda Drive. It's approximately 11.4 acres. It'll be for commercial industrial tax abatement, and it is related to the construction of Phase 2 of Panda's electric generation facility. Next slide, please. Here's a map. The circled area is the 11.4 acres. This was carved out of the original tax abatement zone that they requested. So now that they are hoping to build Phase 2, they're coming back and asking that this area also be designated as a tax abatement reinvestment zone. Tax abatement reinvestment zones, they have a 5-year lifespan, would allow tax abatement on the increased property value. Of course, City Council would have to approve a tax abatement agreement for that to happen. It applies to commercial industrial tax abatements only. We anticipate bringing the tax abatement agreement to council on the December 6th meeting, and that will also be the second reading of the ordinance. Next slide, please. The proposed zone meets the city's criteria for designation of tax abatement reinvestment zones. The ordinance will set forth the findings that we feel like the designation will likely result in retention of primary employment or creation of new jobs and lead to the creation of new real or personal property improvements. The other taxing entities have been notified within 7 days of this first reading. I'll entertain any questions. Again, no action tonight, just first reading and public hearing.
Great. Thank you. Questions, council? Thank you, Ms. Landeros. Entertain a motion, public hearing. Gonna get this meeting done quickly tonight, one way or the other. So, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak before the council on this item, please come forward and state your name and address for the record prior to making your comments. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Now, council, your pleasure on the first reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
No motion tonight.
No motion tonight.
Oh, we don't have to pass this on first,
It would take 2 readings.
but you have to pass the first reading.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. We have a motion and a second.
You've
No further
confused me.
discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Next item is first reading and a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance authorizing the annexation of approximately 10-acre tract of land located at the north end of Richland Drive, north of the campus at Lakewood Ranch Phase 4. Ms. Spear.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the Lakewood voluntary annexation, the first of the public hearing. This property owner filed a petition for voluntary annexation on September 18th. It's approximately a 10-acre site. You all adopted a resolution directing staff to create the municipal service plan and the public hearing schedule on October 4th. This is an aerial shot of the property in question. It is at the north end of the campus at Lakewood Ranch subdivision. The municipal service plan was presented on October 18th and 19th. The service plan is an exhibit to the ordinance for the annexation, and it details the specific requirements and items that the city will provide once annexed. The staff makes a recommendation at this time to conduct a public hearing and adopt the ordinance as presented on first reading. The second reading will be December 6th this year. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Spear. Council, any questions? This item requires a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open at this time. Anyone wishing to speak before the council on this item, please state your name and address for the record prior to making your comments. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, your pleasure on the first reading.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of the first reading of the ordinance authorizing the annexation. There's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Next item is another first reading as well as a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a permanent zoning upon annexation to Urban Estates District consisting of 10.089 acres of land proposed for the campus at Lakewood Ranch Phase 8, located at the north end of Richland Drive, north of campus at Lakewood Ranch Phase 7. Ms. Spear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a follow-up. This is a case to apply permanent zoning to the property that has requested annexation. Again, the annexation petition was filed in September. This zoning request is to allow development of single-family dwellings, much like the subdivision to the south. We had a final plat that was approved on September 17th for the final plat of the campus at Lakewood Ranch Phase 8. It's a 15-acre, 19-lot, 3-block residential subdivision. And the northwest portion of this plat is included in the annexation proceedings. These are some images, just for your information, of the surrounding properties. South, of course, is developed. East is undeveloped at this time. The subject property, and then west of the subject property is a property that's undeveloped, and then low-density residential on the other side of the picture. Urban Estates is a very specific use that allows our larger lot resident single-family homes. Single-family detached and industrialized housing are the only types of residential that are permitted, and there are no non-residential uses permitted. An aerial of the property that will be rezoned, Urban Estates. The future land use designates this area as suburban residential. This rezoning is in compliance. Water is available on Richland Drive to serve the property. Wastewater will be provided via private septic systems. Staff does recommend approval of the zoning change. The request complies with the future land use plan. The request complies with the thoroughfare plan, and utilities are available. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time, and I'll be sure to tell you what the Planning and Zoning Commission did. I'm trying to get rid of the meeting along with Mayor. On November 5th, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to approve this rezoning. Now I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spear. So it's not just me tonight. Questions on the item? No, it's not you tonight, Russell. Not yet, anyways. This item requires a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open at this time. Anyone wishing to speak before the council on this item, please come forward and state your name and address for the record prior to making your comments. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, your pleasure on the first reading.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion is second for approval of the ordinance authorizing a permanent zoning change on the annexation. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 7 is to consider approving a resolution authorizing agreement to sell effluent from the Temple Belton Wastewater Treatment Plant to Panda Temple Power 2 LLC. Ms. Lindaris.
I won't go through the whole presentation again, but as we discussed in workshop, this would be the agreement to sell effluent to Panda from the Temple Belton Wastewater Treatment Plant for Phase 2 of their facility.
Council, any questions on this item for Ms. Landeros or Mr. Blackburn? If there are none, consider a motion on the resolution authorizing an agreement to sell effluent from TBRSS to Panda Temple Power 2 LLC.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye.
Mayor, Can I, just real quickly, I just want to say thanks. I think we have a representative of Panda in the audience today. Mr. Boswell from Panda drove down from Dallas, and first of all, I want to say thanks for his presence here today, and to Panda for continuing the investment in our community. And so I want to say, again, just want to give him an opportunity to be recognized here, and he's been involved in certainly in the later stages of our discussions specifically related to this agreement, so I wanted to recognize him.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Boswell. Please express our appreciation to all the folks up in Dallas and say hello to the Carters for us. Thank you very much, sir. Next item on the agenda is our board appointments. This is item 8. Consider adopting resolution appointing members to the following city boards and commissions. We have 5 appointments under this item, or 5 different boards for appointments under this item. Animal Services Advisory Board, 1 member to fill an unexpired term through September 1st of 2014. And we have 1 individual who has expressed interest in that particular board. This is an open seat. Ms. Paula Siebel has expressed interest. And so if there are no other nominations, if there's no objection, we'll let that one stand as a recommendation, and we'll move on to Community Services Advisory Board. 1 member to fill an unexpired term through September 1st of 2014, and 1 member to fill an unexpired term through September 1st of 2015. We have 3 individuals that submitted application for service on Community Service Advisory Board. 1 of those individuals also was willing to serve on another board that we have an opening on. So it would be my recommendation that we would appoint Julie Atkinson and Mr. Don Nelson to serve on the Community Services Advisory Board. If there's no objection to those 2, we'll
Mayor.
move. And and the terms, I would say Ms. Atkinson on the 2014, Mr. Nelson on the 2015. And on the library board, 1 member to fill an unexpired term through September 1st of 2014. Ms. Randy Von Bose has submitted an application. She was also the one who was interested in Community Service Advisory Board, but she was willing to serve on library board, so I would make that recommendation. We have openings. We have 5 openings, actually, on Temple Public Safety Advisory Board, and we have no applicants at this time. And so that's a board council that I would say we really need to look for some good candidates interested in that very important board for our community. And then on the Transit Advisory Committee, 1 member to fill an unexpired term through September 1st of 2013, and I'd recommend Sammy Ragsdale for the transit position. If there are no objections to those recommendations for Animal Service Advisory Board, Paula Siebel, Community Service Advisory Board, Julie Atkinson for the term expiring in September of 2014, and Mr. Don Nelson for the term expiring in September 1st of 2015. Ms. Randy Von Bose for the Library Board position, and then Mr. Sammy Ragsdale for the Transit Advisory Committee. If you approve of those, would you please make a motion for acceptance of those nominations?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion, a second for approval of the nominations as read. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Next item is consider adopting a resolution appointing 1 alternate member to the Bell County Public Health District Board of Directors. We don't have a nomination to bring forward on that one tonight, so ask you to consider a motion to table that item, and we'll try and have that recommendation for our next meeting on December the 6th. Do we have a motion to table?
Make a motion to a table.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to table the item on the alternate member appointment to the Bell County Public Health District Board of Directors. No discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Don't go anywhere, everybody. We're going to take a slight recess here. Nobody's leaving, but we're going to change hats. We are going to recess the Temple City Council, and we are going to convene a meeting of the City of Temple Employee Benefit Trust, and that's to consider an item in the meeting of the City of Temple Employee Benefits Trust to purchase substitute Medicare supplement insurance for the City of Temple over 65 retirees from the Scott and White Health Plan for the calendar year 2013. So I'll declare the meeting of the City of Temple Employee Benefit Trust open at this time. Mr. Stoneberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Stone Road, excuse me.
Mayor Pro Tem, Employee Benefits Trust members, staff and honored guests. I'm Randy Stoneroad, and I'm the City of Temple's Director of Human Resources. The item before the Employee Benefits Trust today, staff recommends that the trust consider adopting a resolution approving a one-year contract with Scott and White Health Plan for the purchase of substitute Medicare supplement insurance for our over 65 retirees for the year 2013. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Medicare supplement insurance, also known as Medigap coverage, is health insurance sold by private insurance companies to fill the gap in original Medicare plan coverage. To be eligible for this benefit with the City of Temple, an employee must be retired after 25 or more years of consecutive service, be over the age of 65, that is past their 65th birthday, and Medicare eligible. From 2000 through 2011, the Scott and White Health Plan offered such coverage to us, and it had 12 different supplement plans. In 2012, that number of plans increased to 20, and it remains at 20 today. Currently, the city has a total of 61 retirees enrolled across these 20 plans, and of those 61 retirees, 44 are lumped together in only two particular plans. There are 25 in the senior premium with basic prescription, and there are 19 in the senior premium with enhanced prescription. Previously, council awarded this contract, but tonight we're here considering it through the trust, and this is upon the advice of the city's benefits advisor, Burke Sunday. Mr. Sunday advises that this plan, being a group plan, fits the parameters for an exemption from the 1.75% premium tax that's imposed by Section 222.002 of the Texas Insurance Code. Hence, we take it forth before the trust. Council awarded a Scott and White contract for this benefit last year. Scott and White performed well, and so now staff recommends a one-year extension of that contract to be awarded by the trust. The current benefits will remain the same, and the city will contribute at the same rate as last year. There are varying rates depending on which program that an employee selects, or a retiree rather, and the cap is $102 per employee per month, or per retiree per month, that the city contributes. And those, by the way, those two programs where I said the retirees tend to lump together in, those do take maximum advantage of the city's contribution of $102 per month. The budgeted amount for all retirees insurance for 2012-2013 fiscal year is $182,250. The estimated amount of Medicare supplement insurance alone is $62,980. And finally, we take this matter up now rather than during fiscal year because, unlike our other insurances, this particular benefit is tied to Medicare, and it begins with the new calendar year and not the fiscal year. Subject to your questions, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Stoneroad. Sir. Other questions on this item? Trust members, other questions on this item? There being none, entertain a motion for approval of this.
Motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the purchase of the substitute Medicare supplement insurance for the City of Temple over 65 employees. No further discussion, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Cloud?
Aye.
Mr. Dunn?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Ms. Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the meeting of the City of Temple Employee Benefits Trust. I'll adjourn that meeting at this time and then reopen the regular meeting of the Temple City Council. Item 10 is to consider adopting a resolution funding the rates for the substitute Medicare supplement insurance for eligible City of Temple over 65 retirees and the city's contribution thereto for calendar year 2013. Mr. Stonebrook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff, and honored guests. This item, the staff is asking you to consider adopting a resolution to fund the rates for the speech that you just entertained regarding this over 65 benefit. And it's proper for council to fund this budgetary matter. And if there are no questions, that would conclude my presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Stonebrook. Council entertain a motion on the resolution to fund the rates for the substitute Medicare supplement insurance.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Quayle.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn.
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Councilmember Morales.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this evening's meeting of the Temple City Council. Thank you for your participation and your attendance. This meeting is adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And to you.